Today we're going to go over how to use the cloning stamp and the healing tool. The image that we're going to use is on the blog, and it is this guy called Bluebeard. And if you click on the image, it will open up larger, and you need to right click on it and save the image. Once you have saved the image, open it up in Photoshop. When you're in Photoshop, you'll notice that Bluebeard has some cuts across the face, like the photo was folded or ripped in some way. And you'll also notice that he has a bad eye and some different spots all over his face. And with the clone stamp and the healing tool working together, we can get rid of a lot of those things on his face and the picture that is ruined. So if you have an image that has been printed and you don't have a digital copy of it, you can restore that image to its original form by using these tools. So the healing stamp is right below the eyedropper tool, healing brush. The shortcut tool to it is J, and we would use the healing brush tool. So make sure you click on that. Below that is the paintbrush, and right below that is the clone stamp. So we're going to use the clone stamp first, and the clone stamp shortcut is S. If you go up to the top, just like all the other brushes, there's different modes that you can use and different opacity and flow. I'm just going to leave it all as normal. Remember that anything that you change on here will stay, so you need to make sure that you go back and look up here before you do anything else. So I'm going to leave it as normal. And if I zoom in on the image, if you Alt-click, then what you are going to do, you'll see my little bullseye comes up. If I Alt-click and I click right here, then that sources that part of the image. So then if I hover over this line, you see the different coloration. That's where I sourced it. So I can start brushing over it. You can kind of see my crosshairs up here as I'm going over it. The crosshairs show where the source is, and it moves as I am moving with it. So it's not the best. You see it has a couple of different coloration problems. So as you are working with this, you want to source another area to make sure that the coloration is correct and it looks the way that you want it to. You can see that it hasn't blended in that well right here, and it has some different issues. So if you go up to the healing stamp and just go to the regular healing brush, you can change the modes up here as well. I'm leaving it the same as normal. And again, you need to source the area. And what the healing brush is going to do is it's going to blend in those different textures and colors. So if I go over it, then see it kind of blended it in a little bit better. Still the same, we're going to have to source in different areas to make it work. If you do it in the same, and I just keep going, do you see how the lines show up and it looks really bad? So you have to keep going and Alt-clicking to get a different source to make sure that it looks right. And sometimes it doesn't always look right. So you want to just keep going over it and fixing. And you can go in and we can get rid of this spot here on him if we wanted to. As you're doing this, you don't want to get doing too much because you'll notice the same textures throughout. So you want it to be a little bit of a differentiation between those. You can kind of try and fix up his mole here so it looks a little bit better. And then go in and fix this line, get rid of it. Okay, the other thing that you can do, if I zoom in again, see his eye, it kind of doesn't look that great, but this other eye is okay. This one maybe has some issues or whatever. So we go to the clone stamp, And if you don't have this window clone stamp, clone source area, if you don't have that in your window, you can go to window and then just go to clone source. When it opens up, you can change your clone source. Right here is for the angle, so we can go in and we can change this, let's say 90 degrees. And I'm going to do the eye so you can see what it looks like. But if I source the eye, and then I can click here, see how it sourced it, and it turned it to 90 degrees. Let's go back to 0. So when you're using the clone source, you can change that angle so that it looks right. Right here we have width and we have height. So we can change those as well. If you hover over this box, it says flip horizontally and flip vertically. So if we flip it horizontally and we click inside of the pupil and we go over here, you'll notice that now I have his whole eye sourced. And then I can click in there, and then it is the same eye, but it has flipped it. Some people like to source this and give him a third eye up here if you wanted to. You can do lots of different things with the clone stamp. Then you can go in with your healing brush and get a source and maybe try and darken up some of this area, because you can see it is a little bit lighter because this side, the sun maybe is shining on it more than over here where it's a little bit more shady. So we'll go through and just kind of darken and texture that up. So those are different things that you can do. If you notice, remember, wherever you source, that's where it's moving and it's following that. So I have source down here, and when I come up here, it's not going to match it completely because of where I've sourced it. It's a little bit better with the healing stamp. Okay, so you need to go in and kind of source these different areas so that it gives it more of those coloration differences. And that's about it. As you are working with these tools, you want to make sure that you zoom in so that you get a good look at it and it works well. So that's the clone stamp and the healing tool.